Sosha. I'm Eva Rosa.
Hello, I'm Drew.
Hi, I'm Tori. Hello. All right, so for our VP2, we decided to consult Thrifty. Thrifty is a local Bellingham business, and he focuses on reselling thrifted clothing items, and a big part of his business is he takes part in events. Actually, he runs events. He has tons of collaborators, from the models to the photographers to the artists that perform at his venues that he rents out. We decided to go with Thrifty because a couple of our teammates, we attended the event and we saw that there was lots of room for growth. And so with the forming stage of our group, we got together, we exchanged contact information, and then immediately a couple of us had already gone to the Thrifty event, and we were like, hey, this guy could use a little bit of help. Let's do it. And so on February 4th, we had our first meeting with Levi, who's the owner of Thrifty. At that point, we decided on interview questions, and we talked with him about how can we make your next event better. Originally, we wanted to help him navigate towards the type of venue and the type of performances that he wanted to choose for his next event. But after this, we decided to do a little bit of a pivot and switch to a agreement form type of situation.
During the storming stage, we started out with figuring out our schedules by putting them into a spreadsheet and marking out where we were available and not available throughout the week and where we could consistently meet. Then we wanted to feel out each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that started out with taking the Enneagram test within our group, and then we also took the time to identify who we were working with, the owner of Thrifty, Levi's Enneagram as well, so that we could best work with him and figure out how he would feel and take our feedback the best. We discovered that he is a 4, which is the individualist, and that really helped drive the rest of our project and the wording for how we were going to propose the project to him. Then, a little bit later on in the quarter, we hit crunch time, and this was the week of the 23rd through the 29th, where we had a big pivot and then wanted to change from our contracts to the agreement forms in order to make it a little bit more agreeable with what we were going for, and just to encompass the fact that we aren't actually lawyers. So that came with a lot of pitch day rehearsals and a lot of changes and last minute changes, and creating a finalization within that week of what we wanted to give and what we wanted to propose to Levi.
Okay, so for norming, as far as that goes, kind of the beginning of that we stepped into was just working in regular meetings into our schedules kind of on a weekly basis so we could touch base and delegate work. And then that moved into just getting consistent work done for each of us and kind of delegating tasks. So like interviews, feedback, BICs, just general stuff that needed to be done. And then kind of one of our big norming checkpoints was our first pivot, where we went from trying to create a new event with Levi to realizing that he probably just needed some more structure in his company and within his relationships. Then our second big pivot, which was a day before we pitched, where we transitioned from developing contracts for him to developing out that consulting proposal and really focusing in on what we could suggest for him to work on, rather than completely coming up with the solutions ourselves, because we just didn't have the qualifications for that. So, yeah.
Okay, so for performing, we did an awesome pitch. In fact, we even made it to the second round, which was awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but next time we'll get them. We did a practice pitch, which we learned a lot from because it was not that great and we were going the wrong way, but we fixed it, and that made our pitch awesome. We have a learning journey under performing. We also have it under adjourning because it is part of the end of this quarter. We have planned to send Levi everything we've made, which includes the contracts. And today we've done teammate feedback and group reflection.
Now that it's the end of the quarter, we'd like to talk about the individual things that we learned. I learned a lot about group communication, especially when it came to storming around our personal times and what we each needed to do. I also learned a lot about designing a BMC because as E1s, you don't need to design a BMC.
All right, so what I took away the most out of this entire VP2 project Patience and delegation were definitely big things. So our group communication, we had a lot of things that we overcame, challenges such as we had a really hard time getting our schedules in line, and sometimes we had a hard time getting in contact with each other because we were just so busy. And actually, a personal goal I made for myself this quarter, but with our VP1, was I wanted to learn how to be more patient. And I don't know if I succeeded according to my group mates, but I feel like I did a really good job at that. I feel like I grew there. Same goes with like the delegation. Sometimes someone's got to step up and be like, hey, like this is what we need done, and to like kind of poke at the group and remind people like this is what we need to do. Also, Zosha did a good job of that too. We stayed on top of it. We got it done. And then developing professional empathy. That was something I hadn't really gone into a ton before. I know how to be empathetic and say like, oh, like your business isn't doing well. I'm so sorry. But as far as like with that professional element where you talk about, okay, I'm empathetic because Levi is a Enneagram Type 4, and this means he loves developing passion around being different. That was something that I never would have learned how to do if we hadn't talked about it here in this class. So
the two things that I learned the most this quarter was the first one being over communication, because I don't do that most times, and I need to do it pretty much all the time because I found myself not communicating enough, and that was a burden to the rest of my teammates, I felt. So learning to do that, especially in the future, would be very beneficial. And then I actually learned a lot about designing BICs, because everyone on my team was really good at that, and so I feel like I was able to kind of observe their inputs on that and get a little bit better of a handle on what a solid BIC looks like.
This quarter I learned a lot about scheduling and how to create space within my schedule for group work. That was one of the hardest struggles that I had this quarter. However, my group was incredibly amazing with being patient and with what my schedule looked like and making our schedules all work together. And I also learned a lot about consulting, as that was the focus of our project this quarter, and what it looks like to consult for a business and help improve something that already exists versus creating something.
Yeah, I can't get no sleep. I look so good in green. I run. But I don't have no more dreams. I drive around on my own. Feel dead, but I feel my bones. I hide out on my throne. Open up, now my cover is blown. Yeah, now my cover is blown.